So I spent a lot of time moving books around to finally give myself a better background for making videos, a more kind of booktuberish background, and I have to say I think it looks alright. Hello everybody, welcome to and welcome back to my channel, Book Time with Elvis, with me Mark, and I have for you a book haul today, which is a mixed blessing because after reorganizing my bookshelves I realize I actually don't have enough bookshelf space for the books I've got, so I've got some extra books that have no home or nowhere to go to unless I start kind of piling them up. So we'll see how that goes, but let's crack on. So I had both a new book and a second-hand book haul. We'll start off with the second-hand book haul, and we'll start off with one of these. I have to say all these were totally under $20, so I'm very happy with that. Start off with this one here, which is a Robert Harris dual novel volume, including Fatherland and Enigma, both of which I've read, but it's been, I don't know, it's back in the 90s, yeah, so it's a fairly long time ago. Yes, I am that old. And, you know, it was so cheap, and I thought, well, why not? Why not? Just to reread it again. It's solid, it's not bad, and, you know, 2 for 1. Can't complain, really, can you? Another one is a rehaul as well, I suppose, which is Giles Milton's Samurai William. I had this copy before. I actually read this while I was living in Japan at the same time I read Shogun. I can't remember if one inspired me to read the other, but yeah. And it's a nice cover. I like the cover. I didn't like the cover of the other edition that I also had at home, and I don't know if I still have this copy in England or not. I certainly don't have it here with me in the Czech Republic. So again, second-hand, reasonable condition, a little bit of cracking on the spine, but you know, means somebody else read it and enjoyed it. Hopefully enjoyed it, but then they gave it away, so, well, or sold it, so maybe they didn't, we'll see. But by the way, this is the story of the first Englishman in Japan, and it's the story of the man who I guess inspired Clavel to writing his great work, Shogun. And next up I have one that I have a little bit mixed emotions about, only purely because the company sent me, or the company didn't send me the edition that they advertised on their website, which I guess that happens all the time. It's a bit older, a crappier version, I suppose, of a vintage classic, but still, on reflection, I don't mind it. I like the kind of colonial picture there on the front. It is the first volume in collected short stories by William Somerset Maugham, and you know, it's not the best condition, but it's a reading copy. It'll be fine. It'll be all right. I'll survive. Next up we have Petrograd, 1917, Caught in the Revolution by Helen Rappaport, well known for her works, of course, on Queen Victoria and the Russian Revolution and Russian history. This one sounds rather fascinating. If you'll indulge me, I'll read the back to you, or at least I would if the black on orange isn't difficult to read. Between the First Revolution in February 1917 and Lenin's Bolshevik coup in October, Petrograd, the former St. Petersburg, was in turmoil. Foreign visitors who filled hotels, bars and embassies were acutely aware of the chaos breaking out on their doorsteps. Among them were journalists, diplomats, businessmen, governesses and volunteer nurses. Many kept diaries and wrote letters home, from an English nurse who had already survived the sinking of the Titanic to the black valet of the US ambassador far from his native deep south, to suffragette leader Emmeline Pankhurst, who had come to Petrograd to inspect the indomitable Women's Death Battalion led by Maria Bokareva. So, is it Bokareva? Or yeah, Bokareva. So yeah, it does sound rather cool, doesn't it? Sounds pretty darn good. Next up we have a Penguin Deluxe Classic Edition of Graham Greene's Travels with My Aunt. So of course it has the French flaps and the deckled edges, and again it was second hand. Now there's something I can't work out if that is sun damage or it's part of the you know, the colour, because the weird thing is, it's just such a weird place to have a little bit of sun damage when the spine is absolutely fine. So I don't know. I can't tell. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It was very cheap, and I'm happy to add it to my Penguin Classics collection. You can just see over my left shoulder there, so that would be cool. And then finally, from the second book haul, and the primary reason I bought these books was this one here, Max Hastings, The Secret War, Spies, Codes, and Guerrillas, 1939 to 1945. Fits in, of course, with Dr. No-vember and also this quarter of Historathon. The reason I bought the other books is because I wanted to get the free postage, and as I said, total of under $20 is, I think, pretty darn good. So that is my second-hand book haul, and I will move on to my new book haul. Now, you'll probably notice a continuity jump there and a change in the shelf behind me, because the new books I had already put on my shelf, so I did find some space for them. And so you might already know which ones I'm going to talk about if you had a keen eye. These are books, again, mostly for, well, they are all for quarter four of Historathon, mostly based around the First World War and the Russian Revolution. We'll start off with Catastrophe by Max Hastings, Europe Goes to War 1914, which I'm currently listening to as an audiobook and thoroughly enjoying. The narrator's doing a fantastic job with all the massive cast of characters in this and different anecdotes and different stories. It's really an incredible feat, and I have to say my hat's off both to Hastings for writing and to the audiobook narrator for doing such a wonderful job in narrating it. And then next up we have Barbara Tuchman's The Guns of August, which I really like the cover for this, and I want to get the Proud Tower in the same cover, but I can't seem to at the moment, which is kind of annoying. But this again is about the well, August 1914, I suppose. So there you go. And then sticking with the theme of the run-up to war, I have Christopher Clark's wonderful Sleepwalkers, which I only say is wonderful because everybody I've ever spoken to has said it's wonderful, and I really want to read it. And it's quite a nice edition, this softback, because it's got the rather short edge there, and then the inlay, which is kind of cool too. And it's all about the lead up to war and how Europe basically walked into this most deadly of conflicts. Next up, we have two books in what's going to be a trilogy. I believe the final book in the trilogy is going to look at the war in the Middle East and Africa. That's the First World War, of course, but the first book is The Western Front by Nick Lloyd, so I don't think much needs to be said about that. The Western Front by Nick Lloyd. And you can probably guess that the second book is the Eastern Front by Nick Lloyd. So I've mentioned them on my channel before on my Historathon wanting to read list, but I didn't have physical copies, and now I do. And I suppose to kind of go with the Helen Rappaport book that we saw, I've got two books on the Russian Revolution, and one is Russia, Revolution and Civil War, 1917 to 1921 by Anthony Beaver, who is a fantastic historian, hasn't let me down yet, hopefully he doesn't, touch wood. And finally, we have a book by, again, the wonderful Anna Reid, who's written books on Ukraine and Leningrad, the siege of Leningrad, and this one is a nasty little war, the West's fight to reverse the Russian Revolution. So again, I think that will be jolly exciting. So that is my book haul. Let me know if you've read any of them. Let me know if you know of any other books in the same kind of area as the ones I've talked about and that you could recommend as well, because I do find this all rather fascinating. Thank you everybody, do take care, and I shall see you all again very soon. Bye for now.